Warning. The following show features reviews from wildly unprofessional critics operating without the supervision of professionals. The thoughts and opinions held by these individuals are not to be taken seriously and do not come from a place of intellectual integrity. This show doesn't reflect the opinions of Criticalist or its users. Viewer discretion is advised.
What's up? What's up? What is up, everybody? Holy stinking crap. Welcome to the very first live Criticless Cast unhinged episode. This is kind of wild that this is the first time that we're legitimately doing this with the crew. And as I say that, I realize that there's a little bit false about it. There's a little bit of untruth because, you know, there's a specific individual that used to regularly be on the show, but just for some reason decided to just fully ghost us today and didn't make it to the show. Mr. Chris Kaus is not here today. He is actually going to be traveling out of the country. He's going to be meeting his mail order bride, and actually, I think he's heading on some type of vacation with palm trees and such. And so we are actually in a snowpocalypse coming up very soon here. And so we're going ahead knocking out this review. We are going to be talking about A Walk to Remember. This is a critic-hated, audience-loved film that I was inundated with in my young years, and I didn't fully realize why until rewatching it, remembering that it was Nicholas Sparks and that it takes place in North Carolina, which is the home of Criticalist, and just all of that fun stuff. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to actually be talking about a few things that we've been watching on streaming, giving you guys an update on what's happening within the Criticalist app. There's a lot going on in this live stream, and we're just really happy for all of you guys that decided to show up and hang out with us for a little bit, and just that we're getting a chance to do this. But I'll go ahead and introduce the usual Spud Specs minus Chris because he sucks and he's not here. So first, I will introduce Mr. Matt Verlack. What's up, buddy?
Hey, everybody. Glad to be here. Glad you all are here.
Right, and I don't know if he's pivoted the camera to him yet, but Mr. Kyle Gazak is here.
What's up, everyone? Happy New Year. Happy to be here.
And that's Kyle off script on Criticalist. If you were within Criticalist, and I am Blaine, I'll be your first friend. I'm your MySpace Tom of sorts. So I will be very easy for you to find if you're not already a user of Criticalist, which I'm guessing most people watching this probably are at this point at least. So, and then Matt is slipping into the void, right?
Yeah, almost on everything, I think.
So yeah, but let's go ahead and get straight into business. It's going to be really interesting to see how all this goes. We've updated some of our tech. We've always had some weird and wonky camera issues that we're still working on. So this is going to be a fun ride. We're just going to wing it and roll with it. And so we wanted to talk about some things that have been streaming lately. And actually one of the things I kind of put Kyle under the gun a little bit here and was like, you were really gushing about a show that no one is talking about, and I think we should tell people to watch it. So Kyle, what was that show?
That show was Interior Chinatown on Hulu. This came out a few months ago. I believe you said there's a few reviews on the app right now, including
you and
myself.
2 others. Yeah,
me and 2 others. This blew my mind. I was highly entertained. I flew through this about eight episodes, if I remember correctly. It stars Jimmy Yang, Chloe Bennett, who Jimmy Yang's a comedian, and Chloe Bennett's from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and a couple other movies. Yeah. And I don't want to spoil it too much, but he's basically a background character in a police procedural type of show. Think like Law and Order, something similar to that. And he makes some discoveries about his environment and his family's background and history, and things start to unravel. And it's super meta. It's hilarious.
It's very creative, right? It sounds like
it's very creative, sharply written, amazing set pieces, oddly enough. And
so is it like Law and Order, or is it more kind of like The Killing or something along those veins?
Imagine like Law and Order inside of something else.
What's the something else?
Just a family dramedy.
Okay.
But Law and Order is happening inside.
Right. It's like a background setting or something to this overall thing.
Yeah, with a little bit of like Matrix vibes without going too far out there. It's just far.
So it gets weird.
Like, am I trapped in something? Is something going on that I should know about? Like, I think there's more to it than what I've been served. So
that's awesome. And this is a
blast.
Hulu original, right?
Yes.
And it just came out like a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3 months ago tops.
Yeah, I think it came out in October.
What was it called again?
Interior Chinatown.
Interior
Yeah.
Chinatown.
Check it out and review it. It's
Yeah.
amazing. So
Yeah.
fun.
Is it long? Like how many episodes do you think? Like 8,
I
10
think
episodes?
it's like 8. All about 30 to 50
Okay.
minutes.
Okay. Pretty quick
per
burn then.
episode.
Does it
Mhm.
seem like it's going to be a mini series, or is this a continuation kind of a deal?
I honestly can't tell. If they do nothing else, it's perfect as a mini series. But there is, I think they could go into a second season if they wanted to. So
Okay.
who knows?
Sweet. Nice.
Yeah.
And I guess I can go ahead and touch on the thing that you and I have been watching.
Yeah.
If that's
Do
cool.
it.
So Matt and I have been watching Creature Commandos, which is the new James Gunn animated show. And I think, Kyle, have you been watching it at all?
Not yet. Not
Okay.
yet.
It's on the
Soon.
list. Okay. So it sounds like this show is a bit divisive, but I guess as far as people's opinions on it, people are kind of torn. It sounds like some folks have cooled a little bit on James Gunn and his brand. It's one of those things where this is edgelord James Gunn. This is James Gunn being James Gunn in an animated show. It is over the top and gory. It's about weird characters, super obscure.
I mean, he literally animates himself in the intro.
Right.
Just to like, to me, that puts in some sort of like realm of things. Name another show where
Right.
the writer / producer director has put themselves in the intro of the show, even though they're not a character.
Right. And it's literally, they're introducing all the characters, and then there's James Gunn writing the show as an animated character in the intro.
Right.
It's very tongue-in-cheek. It's an interesting way to introduce the new DC universe. A very weird choice, but we have 8 reviews, and it looks. I don't think Matt's is even up yet.
Nope.
So by the time yours gets up, and maybe like
Wait,
one
did
other,
I see some heinouses?
you did see some heinouses, yeah. So we've got some boguses, like a bogus from Solid Bones. We've got Ripper Doc, who gave it a heinous, a 0 of all things.
Wow.
And Choose Violence, who regularly does choose violence.
Her
with his
name is apt. I think it's a her.
Oh,
Her
is it?
name is apt as can be.
Okay. Yes, that is a good way to put it. Yeah, because I have multiple times commented, you did. I see you did choose violence. So yeah, but this show, so I've seen all the episodes now. It's all out if you plan on watching it, so you don't have to wait on weekly drops or whatever. So it's all there. I think they stuck the landing, and in my personal opinion, and I did break down my opinions on the on my personal review as far as per episode. But this thing really does get better as it goes. I thought it started out a little rough, but by the end, it's like firing on all cylinders. The show is really good. I really enjoyed it, and I think that they did stick the landing. I'm excited for more, and they've already announced the season 2. So, and these characters are actually going to show up in live action in the DC universe going forward.
See, that's what I can't wait for. I'm curious to see if the voice actors are going to be the ones
I want to see
doing the live action.
David Harbour
And so
as
the-
Frankenstein.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, and the thing is we know this can be done. Like, look at Doom Patrol,
Mm-hmm.
which it was kind of like this.
Mhm.
They had their wonky characters, they had the wooden robot and
Mhm.
things like that. Like, so we know it can be done. Now,
Right.
can James Gunn make it happen?
Right. Yeah, well, and can he make all of DC happen at this point? It's like he's still Superman is kind of make or break it for honestly all of comic books at this point, I think.
Yeah, that and Supergirl.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. I'm curious to see how Supergirl is. What is following up Superman? Do any of you guys know? Because I'm
I
honestly
don't.
not sure.
As far as the DC
Yeah.
lineup,
Yeah. Because there is an
Uh,
order. I think there's more shows. Obviously, we got like Peacemaker and
I
other
think
things.
there's
Mm.
a Supergirl comes out.
Is that a movie?
Yeah,
Oh.
they're about to start filming like Monday.
If they
like
are,
this
then
coming
that's
Monday?
probably the second up,
Yeah,
I would assume.
And then
Yeah.
and I guess maybe Lobo.
right?
I
And
don't know what they're gonna do with like connecting the Lantern show.
Right.
If they are at all.
he's got big plans.
Yeah. I have to ask y'all this though. Did y'all going through Creature Commandos? Did y'all enjoy that more than season 3 of What If?
Yes. I only saw like 2 episodes, and it was enough to know that I did not care.
Well, I stopped with What If after the first season because
Right.
I don't care about What If because I think it's wildly just boring and
I watched it, and I'm like, what if
doesn't
this
matter.
mattered?
right. It doesn't matter. Literally, Blaine and I had this discussion I think a couple days ago. It doesn't matter to me. It's just some random like spin-off show about what ifs. Like I cared more about the Futurama episode where they had the what if machine
Right.
because that was way more interesting than like, oh, what if such and such was this character? I don't care.
What if all these characters that no one cares about had their own show? Guess what? No one would watch. And it's exactly what's happening.
I'll say this because there was like maybe 2 episodes in season 3 that I thought were
Mhm.
great, and other than that, it's just like y'all are doing too much. Like I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on, but I do think it's become just this big origin story for the Watcher, which will be canon,
Right.
which might play into Fantastic Four first steps.
Right.
But
bigger Marvel projects. I'm curious to see as this thing keeps rolling along what the deal is and what Marvel's doing, and whether they manage, DC and Marvel either manages to save the superhero genre or absolutely torpedo it at this point. We're on the cusp, and for most people, it's in that like Star Wars boat of torpedoing it. And also,
front row seat.
Yeah, for sure. So Matt, what was it that you were going to talk about?
So I binge watched Solo Leveling.
Oh, that's right.
Which I know, Blaine.
Yes.
In your newfound nerddom,
I'm going full weeb.
Yeah, you watched the crap out of that when it first came out.
Yeah.
And so I had not, because I just didn't have Crunchyroll, who now owns like every anime ever. And so I've been watched that over the last like 3 days, I think.
Yes.
There's like 12 episodes, and the new season just started, which I did not watch the new season.
Yes.
Or knew that the new episode.
Yes.
And I don't normally watch this type of anime. It's called like a Isekai or something like that. And the whole thing is like the character dies in like the first season, comes back into a new life.
Right.
This is a twist on it. It's not your typical version of that.
Right.
But I really like the show.
Okay, good.
I do have the same qualms I normally have with this type of anime, where they just continuously level up with no problems.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like he keeps leveling up, and there's no foe he can't defeat,
right?
Because he levels up. And normally these kind of animes deal with a lot of the side characters and things like that. And yeah,
right.
I'm still very interested to see where it goes, because especially with the last like 2 episodes, this could go in some completely different direction, where maybe they'll get away from the whole, oh, he can just endlessly level up.
Right. Yeah. And I would recommend you go check out I Miss Good Movies review on Criticalist. He gave it a 98%. It is a very shining review of this show, and I loved it. Gushed about the show for a while, and I gave it a fairly high score as well. Now, granted, you know, take yourself a few minutes, because when you read his reviews, you know, we got a few paragraphs going on here. He's got a lot to say. This is honestly, it's a very good review, and as always, his reviews are excellent. And so he just really breaks down the show well. I think it's headed in a really cool place, and if you're into anime, watch this. If you're not, then I guess ignore everything we're saying, and this isn't going to be your bag. But
and that's the thing, you have to have Crunchyroll to watch it,
right?
Which a lot of like the new animes are in Crunchyroll, since they bought Funimation and getting deep in the weeds there with the anime stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, Hulu has a lot, but it's mostly, and Netflix is trying to keep up, but it's mostly all there.
It's mostly them.
Can you compare it to something close? If you had to,
man, I honestly,
or is it very singular and
it's not?
I'm honestly, you know what I would compare it to? It's almost not compared to another anime, but I think it shares a lot of DNA with the Matrix.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Much.
I can agree, because you learn pretty quickly that this could be a Matrix kind of situation.
Something's going on in this.
I mean, and you learn it early on, so it's not ruining things for you necessarily.
Right.
But it's very kind of like you were talking about, is like something going on. Something how you described your show.
Yeah.
Where
there's something else.
There's definitely something else, and you learn really quickly.
By like
the second episode that something else is going on.
Yeah. And this is at a 90% on Criticalist right now, if that says anything. So everybody, now granted, that's only by 12 people, but everybody really likes the show a lot. It's very good if you're into anime, which I only have gotten in within the past year. And I guess this is a shining example of what is great about Criticalist or terrible. However, if your wife has an opinion about it like mine, then it's
because I've been trying to get this man to watch anime since I've known him for like 12 years now.
Right.
And he's just always been like, oh, anime's stupid. Freaking nerd. Even though we play board games all
home and hump a pillow with a girl's face on it, man.
I'm sure your waifu pillow is in the mail now. Don't worry, we won't tell Sleepy Space Mom it's on its way. But
you see what you're missing now.
No, she's heard me.
Right, she's heard. She's in here. She knows. Oh, good. Yeah. So I blame all of our Criticalist, several of our Criticalist users for this. Yeah, for the users being one of them. You guys have thoroughly influenced me into watching anime, and which is why you haven't seen many reviews from me of late, is because I've watched like 50 or 60 some odd episodes of My Hero Academia and a movie. So, you know, I'm down that rabbit hole, which is also a show that Kyle has been trying to get me to watch for a bajillion years. So it just took the little push from our Criticalist users to be like, just go ahead and dive in and try some of this. And I will say, with the floundering US entertainment market, anime and things from Japan and other Asian countries like Korea are really thriving right now. And so it makes sense that we would attach to some of these things because they have not gotten hyper obsessed with all the political stuff of late. So
Yeah,
it makes sense. So the next thing I wanted to do,
should we
What you
do some shout outs?
oh, we should. Yes, if we got, I'm
Yeah,
not used to
'cause-
having a chat here. Matt's watching it.
So we've got people popping off.
Yeah.
So greatly appreciate. I'm just going to shout out since there's lots of conversations going on. So I'm
Sweet.
just going to do like some shout outs to everybody on here. So we'll start at the top here. So shout outs, Har with Nads.
Nadia, what's up?
Nadia, what's going on? Of course, Miss Criticalist,
Yeah.
supporting us as always. Caveates, or as I like to say, cave titties. Now, I remember
the best kind of titties, the ones
Best.
in a cave. As long as there's a light, then I guess they're not that enjoyable. I don't know.
I don't know.
You don't want them in the dark, I guess.
Yeah, I guess not. R to the icky.
And
Appreciate you joining.
unless they're the titties from what was that horror movie from years ago?
Barbarian.
Barbarian. Those are some cave titties. Right there.
Those are cave titties.
Those are.
I hope that's not the titties that were referenced.
No, I hope not. Yeah. Oh my God, dude, you'll never forget it.
No, you should see it though.
You should.
It's a horror movie, but
It's
it's
actually
such a
fantastic.
wild twist.
Super meta.
Yeah, especially if you don't know.
Right. And it stars our Scream King Justin Long, who is like in every horror movie ever.
But it also has our other Scream King. Skarsgård. One of the Skarsgård.
Bill Alexander.
I think
Stella.
Skarsgård.
It's not Bill, it's the other one,
Oh.
Alexander, I think,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, he's in it early on.
Yeah, it's a
So-
cool movie actually, even for
Oh,
people who
wait,
aren't into
no,
horror movies.
He it's the one with Ethan Hawke as well.
I don't know. Maybe.
He
Maybe.
comes back for revenge.
We'll let the chat
Maybe.
correct
I
us
don't
while you're
remember
shout outing
on that
It
one.
came out like a few years ago.
It
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
did. I think it was pre-COVID,
Yeah.
so it's been that long. So
Yes.
all right. So we also have Wine Fiend in here hitting us up. Of course, shout out, big shout out. And Vex Electronica in here. God tier when secretary exists and hearsay.
Mhm.
David Stewart coming in saying Vinland Saga is a S tier anime. I tried getting into that and I couldn't.
I loved it. I think you would like Vinland Saga a lot.
I have
Kyle.
not seen
It
it
is
yet.
season 2 is like next level, totally different than the first season.
And I tried. I got like a couple episodes in season 2 and I just
Season 2 is either
fizzled
your
out.
brand or not.
Yeah.
It's like a drama. It moves into a drama from like a war heavy action show to a full on drama.
I can appreciate
So
that.
yeah, it's got layers for sure.
Yeah, it's an onion. It's got layers.
Nice.
Let's see. There was one.
Who else we got?
Let's see. The R to the icky. And I think that's it
Nice.
for now.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
So,
Thanks for hopping
thanks,
in.
y'all.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Oh, and David Stewart. I think
Nice.
I called him out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks, guys,
Yeah,
for
we're-
coming in here. We really appreciate it. And one thing I did want to talk about, if you have not seen, we have a big update within Criticalist. This has got 2 big features that, and some other small little things of just quality of life that you probably won't notice. But the 2 big features that we have within Criticalist now is drafts being first of these, which has been requested for over a year at this point from multiple users. So you can actually, when you go to publish your review, you don't have to publish it. You can save it as a draft, and you can either go to that movie's page or show's page and find the draft which is already there, or you can go to your draft list on your profile, so you can find that there as well. It's very easy to use, very user friendly. So make sure when you're on Criticalist, to check that out and let us know what you think about the drafts. I don't think I currently have any going on, so I can't show them in the app, but definitely make sure to check out the drafts feature. The other thing that we added that has been requested ad nauseum at this point is a restructuring of our notifications. And so if you are using Criticalist and there are certain types of notifications that you might or might not want, we have essentially made it a lot more layered as far as what you can do. And so it's different on web. That's what I was going to pull up and show you, but I don't know if it's the best idea to show you here because it's a little different. But essentially on mobile as well, what we have allowed you to do is decide if you want push notifications on your phone, if you want them in the app, if you don't want them in either place, basically to really let you customize your notification experience within Criticalist. Along with when you're subscribing to groups, you can subscribe to a group, but then unsubscribe from the notification. So it's, if you want to show the group some support, regularly check in on it, but you might not want notifications all day, every day from what is happening in that group, you can turn those off and then just check into the group from time to time. So we have added all of that for you guys. I think people are going to like both of these a lot. They've both been requested a lot. And I did a semi-notification update a month ago, and all of you guys freaked out and then had to ride through it through the holiday break. And I totally forgot I broke it. So I was confused along with everyone else. And then we realized that it was my fault. So yeah, that happened and is not the first and probably will not be the last time that something like this happens. So There you go.
Button.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
Love
Everybody's
that.
really excited in the chat that this has gone through.
Yeah.
So make sure you have the most recent update.
Yes.
So you can start using drafts and the updated settings.
This
Shoot,
is
we're excited here.
right.
We're excited in this room
Right.
for that.
Right. It's a thing that we've all liked and wanted. It was needed. It definitely was needed. And I don't know if other platforms have drafts, but we do now. So I would definitely recommend updating the app so that you also don't break it without, being that you haven't updated it yet. So what I do want to do now is move straight into our review for A Walk to Remember. And if you weren't picking up from my freaking sweet duds here, we were like, if you used to watch the Criticless Cast Unhinged show that we pre-recorded, we had unhinged garb, get up, the way that we dressed was very on brand. And then when Chris bailed this week or today, I was like, maybe we won't do it since he's not here. Kyle won't have the garb and the get up to look like an 80s, fitness instructor. Yeah, and he can't fit in it because it would look like a tiny man and a big man in a tiny coat. So that would have happened as well. So then I was like, you know what? This whole movie, this Walk to Remember movie, takes place in 2000, or it was filmed in 2002. I guess takes place in the same time period. I am totally digging the vibe. Like, this just takes me back. I want to rock a wife beater and a chain and a plaid. And God Almighty, were there plaids, unbuttoned plaids for days. I mean, between that and the wife beater, so Matt was like, well, I have plenty of plaids.
Right. And I had like the perfect coastal plaid.
Right, there you go.
So I was like, cool.
We're Mr. Low Country right now.
Yeah.
I am. It's funny because this is my only one, and I bought it on a whim. So
like
here I am.
There you go.
I never would wear this.
You wouldn't? Oh,
I mean, I do
good.
occasionally, but like not a lot. It's like a formal, like fancy plaid. I wear this on special occasions.
Right. I put this on and I was like trying to decide. I'm like, I feel like I'm going to like a Wolverine audition or something.
Wine
like,
Queen said that. She said you have a
right. All I need to do is like pull up both these and
there you go. Perfect.
we can just screenshot that.
Wolverine here.
So yeah, this is my Wolverine audition starting now. But yeah, so we are going to be talking about the Mandy Moore, Shane West, critic hated, audience loved, god tier girl flick. I mean, really, this is a chick flick to the max.
Yes.
And to be honest, I did like this movie quite a bit back in the day, and so I was really curious where I would sit with it at this point. I was always into some of this when I in my younger years. I definitely watched more chick flicks, things like that, and obviously most guys knew, that is the key to the ladies' hearts. When they got word, they're like, oh, this is a sentimental man. This is a guy that can watch A Walk to Remember and shed a tear with me. Yes,
he's a keeper.
He is a stud for sure. So, obviously I knew the drill. And so this was clearly one of my favorite movies ever. But I was kind of excited to talk about this. We've talked about it for a while because it's been in the mix of this critic hated, audience loved list that I've made within Criticalist. And so this is one of the ones that kept coming up, and it's on all the streaming platforms and easy to watch. So hence why we're doing it. And who doesn't want to hear three dudes talk about a chick flick? So
from 2002,
right? From 2002 of all things. So yeah, I mentioned this is starring Mandy Moore. This was like her first big film, from what I gather. First large thing she had done. And Shane West had been doing some things for a while. I mean, honestly, when I think Shane West, there's one movie which is very close to my heart.
Yep. Dear to my heart. It's the same thing. I know it. We haven't talked about this at all, but I know it.
Let's hear it.
League of Extraordinary
Gentlemen.
There it is.
One of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah. And we don't care what I'm a Skid Movies or anyone else has to say about that movie. It's a masterpiece.
And it's the number 2 of the 1-2 punch from Shane West that got him really like his stardom going in the business, because he did Walk to Remember, and then the following year it came out with that with Sean Connery, and just like everyone's like, I'm sorry, who is this guy?
Right. Also, like Heartthrob, he was working his way into that market with the ladies for sure. And honestly, watching this, I was like, oh my God, this is the most Chad Michael Murray vibes I have ever had in my life. Like, this guy is Chad Michael Murray and his ass off from top to bottom, to the point in which I think that this actually shares some of the sets of that show, because the show also takes place in North Carolina. And There's so many weird things surrounding all this with it taking place in North Carolina. I have met people that knew Nicholas Sparks, who wrote these books. Apparently, I don't want to spread any false information here, but I had heard that he was not the most pleasant of characters, actually, but he is known for writing these type of movies and books that always end up making it into movies. There are a lot of them that have blown up and become very famous, like The Notebook. And I think I preferred this one over The Notebook, but we'll see. We'll dig deeper into this movie as we go. But I was interested to see there are some of these actors in here that ended up becoming, started being in more things. Like Clayne Crawford is in this, and he's like a TV show guy now and has been on a ton of stuff. I pulled up his list within Criticalist, but he's been around for a while. So wow, that's an interesting movie poster there. But yeah, he's been around for a while. So it was interesting thing to go back to this movie after not seeing it for so long and talking about it over these years. Definitely make sure, if you have watched it, to drop your review within Criticalist. We have 9 voters right now, and I guess by the time Matt and I drop ours, we'll be at all of the reviews here. So we'll have an official audience score, at least a low one. So, and it's streaming everywhere, like I mentioned. But what I want to do first is just really surface level. What do we think about this? And actually, before I do that, hold on one moment. I do want to read the overview here. So what it says is, when the popular Restless Landing Carter is forced to participate in the school drama production, he falls in love with Jamie Sullivan, the doctor of the town's minister. Jamie has... Doctor. Do what?
Not the doctor.
Doctor. No, doctor. Yeah, he falls in love with the doctor, the daughter of the town's minister. The doctor of that would be a great plot. He falls in love with the doctor. That would be a very modern, modern movie for sure. Jamie has a to-do list for her life, so we've got the bucket list there, check mark for the chick flicks, and as well as a very big secret she must keep from Landon. So that's a little bit of a spoiler, I think.
What could it be?
What could it be? So that's the overview of this film. So it's following young love. It's got the high school element. It's got the bucket list. It's got young love. All of these things. It's checking boxes. Actually, an excellent review, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, is for the user's review, which she talks about some of this as well. So, but let's hear upfront thoughts on this movie. Kyle, you've already dropped your review within the app, so everybody can already see it. So
right.
Let's hear those thoughts.
It's connected to the title, A Walk to Remember. I will say it is a movie to remember, because even though it came out in 2002, and I've seen it just a few times, it sticks with you. And I mean, like I said in my review, it's Mandy Moore, Shane West, great performances as the dual leads. They had no right to do that to us back in the day, or now when you're rewatching it or wherever you're doing that at.
Right.
But look, for me personally, any movie that takes place in the Low Country, like up and down, like southeast coast, I'm already there. I'm here for it. So I'm already drawn into the setting. But I believe it's Adam Shankman was the director.
He was.
Given the material, without getting too spoilery, it's well handled, I think. Great performances, great directed. I mean, it's going to hit you in the,
it's going to get you in the feels.
Oh yeah. Your soul's going to be battered and bruised and seeping tears of regret, but and a little bit here and there.
Seems a bit extreme.
Let me specify, for first time watchers.
Okay.
Who are going in blind,
or who have a heart or a soul or any level of compassion within their body.
It's like, this might be stretching it, but imagine Hallmark movie had an older, more mature, deeper brother.
Right.
That's what this is. And here's the thing.
I can get behind that. That's actually that's kind of a good way to put it.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Again, without going too spoiler heavy, something that you can attach to going into this, everyone deals with grief,
right,
in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
you're going to deal with a version of that in this film. So already there's going to be that relatability. So you're going to be right there in the story with them, and you're going to go along for the ride no matter what it does to you. Then you're going to overlay your own experiences, possibly,
right,
and that will deepen the connection, and that'll alter your experience, whoever you are. But overall, I mean, it's a great watch. I think I said in my review, once or twice is fine. maybe you just love it, or you just need more of Shane West, but once or twice is great. I mean, it's a well-made film, by a great team.
And you gave it what did you give it? You gave it a
72.
72.
It's rad.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's rad.
Absolutely.
I like that. And so, Matt, this was your very first time seeing this movie, right? No. Oh, you saw it way back.
I saw it once in high school under duress.
Under duress.
It was under duress. I was
The way in which most men see chick flicks.
Yeah, but this wasn't even in that way. I was a band kid, and we would go on long trips to like states away, and I was on a bus and with the drum line, and we got in trouble on the bus, and we basically were put in silent mode, and they put on whatever movie they chose.
Right.
Ipso facto, the bus got to watch A Walk to Remember.
And I don't know if you've seen the reviews yet, but there are multiple reviews in here where other people say that they were on a camp out, they were in a school bus. Like, you're not the only one. This was apparently like the film to put on trips, whether it be like a youth group trip or which there is one scene that if it was on any of these trips, that there is a scene which could be a little awkward. It's a very funny scene, but that will be interesting to talk about the spoilers. But yeah, so where would you rank this, Matt, now after seeing it round 2 as an adult man with no heart or soul, and which you have an open, seething hatred for romance?
I just don't like sad movies. That's really what it comes down to. Is I just don't like sad movies per se. And so I would say this is probably a high decent for me. I think that's where I would settle with it. Maybe a low rad. I could be persuaded.
Okay.
But it was really, some of the acting was subpar for me at points, especially the side characters, which I mean, they don't really matter, but that was some of the writing.
And I'll say, I think one of the things I noticed was that as this movie went along, the acting progressively got better, literally across the board. You can almost physically see it get better.
But that's because a lot of side characters went.
I mean, that is also true.
So
yeah,
that's just what happened in the movie, which makes sense storyline wise. I will say there were some moments I literally laughed out loud, and I'm pretty sure I wasn't supposed to laugh. So we will get into the spoiler,
right?
But there were plenty of times I was just like, "This is not good." And there were some set problems I had, like the lighting was atrocious the majority of the movie. There were some logistics things that bothered me as a North Carolinian,
right?
So we can get into that also.
Sure. Okay, so I'll touch on really quick.
You think?
Yeah. With where I sit on this is, I don't think back in the day, I probably would have said that this was like most excellent range. I had seen this so many times, and I will say that there's like a part of me that wants to give this that like single point bump, 80%, a just stick right at that point simply because of the nostalgia. And I've mentioned it many places around the app. I've talked about it before, and I think that for the users might have even mentioned it somewhere, but where this soundtrack is a banger. There is it. You don't like it, Matt?
No, I literally kept thinking about
Mandy Moore songs.
Oh, I'm talking about the soundtrack.
Okay.
It was mostly Mandy Moore songs, so you can't discount those.
No.
Cannot discount those. Xena looked it up. They're mostly Mandy Moore songs. Then
only on the album.
Only on the album. 3 Switchfoot songs, and then the rest were like indie love songs that were super slowed down.
No, there were multiple metal bands in there.
The lead singer the lead guy listened to like 2 sort of metal songs early on, and you just heard muffled.
No, there was a new Radical song that is freaking fantastic. There was a Cold song on there that they play a substantial amount of. Like, there's some good
Cold
stuff.
Is not a good band. So
listen, for the time,
they had one good song and everybody knew it.
Don't you fuck with the love of my past music loves, man. So as Kyle just chomps on his popcorn over here. Yeah. So I mean, honestly, like I think that the soundtrack is quite good. Now what I'll say is the soundtrack that they actually produced was minus a bunch of the songs that are actually in the movie. The physical soundtrack that came out. Now the new Radical song that is on there is just one that I love. I literally was singing, even the Mandy Moore songs, which I don't like on this movie.
Yeah.
I still knew every word to every song in this movie.
You were singing one yesterday.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah.
I swear.
Probably so. Yeah. It's so, I mean, I do like the soundtrack. It just, this movie gets me in the feels. I clearly saw it quite a few times. I think we owned it back in the day. Like it just was on. And so there's this weird nostalgia bit to it.
Yeah.
But I think that the movie still holds up fairly well. Like I said, the acting, it starts out a bit rough, and as the movie goes along, it gets better. It does really throw you into things right in the beginning, kind of hard and heavy, and it's really intense. And a lot of the kind of stereotypes are a bit on the nose, but it is just kind of one of those. But at the same time, watching it, there was a part of me that it was nostalgic, and you're like, yeah, but these people did exist. Like, I remember these people in my high school. I remember people acting like this. They freaking sucked.
Oh yeah.
Like high school kids suck. And there was a lot of that, and this movie kind of wears all that on its sleeve. But as a whole, I didn't really mind it, and especially as the movie went on. And like you said, it is a tearjerker. This movie really gets you in the feels. But I think for one of these, like as far as chick flicks go, I think it's a very solid one, especially for the age of it at this point. And
Yeah.
I think it still holds up pretty well. So I'm probably going to give it a rad somewhere in there, but I'm guessing 70 something.
What would it take for that point or
That
whatever
point.
bump into?
Oh man, I don't know. I've watched some of the reviews come in, which I normally don't do, especially for new movies when we review them. But as seeing some of those come in, I really seen other people's opinion on it, especially that have come to it first. And I will check out his review after a while. But Jaja Binks actually reviewed it. He saw it for the first time and gave it a really good review. And he's just like, this totally blindsided me. He gave it an 80%. He's like, this movie is really good. I wasn't expecting it to be this good. And it got me in the feels. And it does. And I think that it does. Some people will call it manipulative. I've seen people call movies like this manipulative. I didn't really feel it that way, but I feel that way about any movie that makes me cry. If it makes me cry, I'm like, you're a freaking monster. I don't cry. This was fucked up. You shouldn't have done that. So
it also has a little bit of a refreshing feeling, just because given the time period of when it was made and when it was set, like those were good times. Like
it was good.
Early 2000s, like depending on when you were born and what decade you're a child of. Like
if you were like middle school, high school in these years, like this was a good time to be alive.
I remember watching that like flip phone, like texting my sister. I'm like, okay, yeah, that wasn't too bad.
Right. And like straight up, that's another thing you kind of see. It's like a meme. You're like, oh, it was 2000 and not a cell phone in sight. Like straight up, there's not a cell phone in this movie, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think a single one. And it's weird to see that now. And to kind of step back into that world, it does feel like how the youths of today make fun of us, and they say that we were born in the 1900s. And when you hear that, it hits. That is a statement that hits hard, but also you're like, well, we had it better, so y'all can suck it.
I mean, my hands hit hard too, so
right. I can get the back of it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I guess what we're gonna do is move on into the spoiler discussion of this. If there's anything we kind of want to dig into a little bit deeper about what we did or didn't like, and just overall about the movie. So if you are planning on watching and don't want to spoil, then you can bail and come back. But we're just gonna get into spoilers at this point. So
yeah.
Here we go. So yeah, Matt, you said that there were some things that didn't quite land for you.
Yeah.
What didn't?
I mean, off the cuff. It was a start. Like you have already said, the acting in the first like half of it is bad, like laughable bad. Like I just was just like, this is not a good movie. In my mind, I was like, this might be a heinous. And I already knew the twist. Like I knew the big reveal. So just as Blaine said, this is spoiler talk now.
Right.
So all you people know. But like
the cancer.
Right. Like she has cancer, she's dying. So like I already knew, and I was like, I still don't like this guy. I know he's about to make like a change, and that's the whole purpose.
Right.
But his acting's bad. Like his friends' actings was atrocious.
Right.
So I think that's why the second half of the movie's better, because they all get cut out except for showing back up randomly to be like, oh man, I found out she's died. I'm sorry.
Right.
Even then they don't say that.
So was it the two leads that you still weren't crazy about their acting either early on?
No, their acting was okay. I mean, what's the male? Well, I can't remember his name. Shane West. His acting wasn't that great, but it was okay. Like it wasn't like
I think he was the most seasoned of the bunch, and actually,
which is crazy to think about.
And the female lead was actually supposed to be Jessica Simpson initially,
instead of Mandy
Moore. But I guess that there was some push and whatever. They were
singer.
Yep, they wanted a singer. And actually, another fun fact about this movie is that apparently this is loosely based on a true story. This is actually Nicholas Sparks also had a sister die very young of cancer. And so that was where this story came from, was his younger sister and what happened to her. So that also kind of changes things a little bit, to where it's like, that's why when people call things like this manipulative, I'm kind of like, yeah, but stuff like this happens. Like people, I mean, yeah, there's more elements to the story besides the cancer, but like it happens. And so it was a story to tell, and he told it. And
Yeah.
whether or not you like the execution of it, I guess, is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, and then one of the other things that bugged me probably the whole movie was the lighting. I
Oh.
felt like the lighting was so freaking off.
Really?
Yeah, there was like multiple light sources all the time, and it
Huh.
didn't make sense the majority of the time. And once I noticed it, I couldn't stop noticing it.
Right.
Hmm.
And it's just one of those things where I don't know if they were just using cheap lighting or what, but it was just super noticeable. So it's just
really
one of those things that
wild.
just takes you out of the movie
Right. When you notice it,
almost instantly every single time.
I almost like want to go back now because I didn't
Yeah.
notice it in the slightest. But I mean,
Yeah.
you know, one of those, it's like those things you say, whereas once it pops on your radar, then you almost can't unsee it. And so you're like, it's kind of like an itch you can't scratch.
It makes me wonder, like, I don't know if this is an educated guess or not, but in terms of production
Mhm.
and acting, this is 2002, so we're right around the start with Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter.
You're right. Yeah.
started that
Right around
year.
there, I think.
Yeah.
So the we'll call it the beginning of the era of, is it going to be as good as the book?
Right.
So and you have a green cast and a
Mhm.
semi-green director at the time.
Mhm.
Right.
He'd done a couple big things, but I'm wondering if there were nerves or some trepidation that just couldn't be shaken.
Yeah.
Starting out, like, hey, we gotta deliver on this and make it as good, if not better, than the book, when that really wasn't a thing yet.
Right.
And Nicholas Sparks was already, like, I think pretty well known at
Right.
the
And I
time.
think that he is fairly well known for also being involved with his
Right.
projects as well.
Right.
So
Mhm.
and the only thing that he that had been directed by this director before that was The Wedding Planner, actually.
Really?
Starring Jennifer Lopez and
Talk about a
Matthew
very
McConaughey.
different kind of movie.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
And
still a
then-
rom-com, I guess, technically. but
Yeah.
And then he went on to do like Pacifier and Cheaper
Yeah.
by the Dozen too, and a couple other-
Hairspray,
yeah,
bedtime stories.
Rock
Yeah.
Ages,
Yep.
Wildly different
but
movies.
He's
they
been
might have
around for a
gotten
while.
comfortable,
Right.
like the further they got into it,
Probably.
so like for the back half, not to say they shot chronological because that would be a nightmare,
Right.
but I don't know. That's something I thought about when you were talking about the
Yeah.
the acting
And apparently the shoot was only like 39 days. To me, that doesn't sound super long.
No.
Is it?
A month?
39 is a month?
6 weeks and breaks. Yeah, with your breaks and everything, like that's only about actual 29, 30 days of like actual filming,
Right.
not counting pickups. So month for, yeah.
They banged it out.
It's all close proximity
Hmm.
down there when they shot it.
Right. Because most of it was in
location.
Wilmington.
Yeah, it was all on location.
Except for the one scene where they went to Virginia.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
From
Yeah.
Beaufort,
well,
which
yeah.
I mapped, and that's like 4 hours each way.
It could have been doubled. I don't know.
They literally went to
Right.
the Virginia
It's on the
line
line.
with
But
the
either way,
Virginia sign behind them, and we're like, "Look, we're in two places at once."
that was the
You could've
local complaint.
fucking gone to South Carolina.
Yeah.
He's right there.
Yeah. That scene when I saw it too, I was like, like this is like the scenes in Outlander. If you watch Outlander, there's multiple scenes where they're like they have just left Wilmington, and then all of a sudden they're in the mountains, and you're like, they were on foot. Like this is impossible.
That's like a 3-week
Yeah,
trek.
you're like someone who doesn't live in America did this because this makes no sense.
It's still a quick shoot, even for like a slow romedy,
Right.
romance drama, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For reference, like Phone Booth with Colin Farrell, which
Right.
came out like the same year. That was shot in, I think, 13 or 14 days.
Holy
Jeez.
crap.
Or yeah, it was super fast, and most of it was right there.
Well, I was about
Right.
to say that movie is, I would
Very
assume,
smoothly
basically
looking.
all on one. Like
Right.
they didn't have to move a lot.
Right.
Like this movie bounced between
There's
a
a
handful of sets.
There's a good bit,
Yeah.
honestly, of places that they go between the schools and the homes
and the house. Yeah.
Right. But it is a good taste of North Carolina, and people from around here always appreciate that. And that's why I always wondered, I'm like, was I inundated with this movie because it was a local film? Like, is that why we all kind of grew up with it so
Yeah.
much? But a lot of the reviews aren't North Carolina people, and they're like, yeah, like I saw this on a school trip or whatever. So
No, I definitely think this was one of those movies that was widely published and a lot of people
Right.
saw.
So the question is then, why did the critics hate this so much?
Oh, I actually have an answer. I have,
Okay.
I have a thesis.
Okay.
Because Mandy Moore is Jesus.
Okay. Oh, you mean like in the film,
this film,
right?
she is the embodiment, or
She's a Christ-like character.
She's a Christ-like character.
Yeah.
She literally dies to like help this other guy change who he is. Like that all like her being there caused a complete identity change
Right.
for the main character.
Yeah, I mean that is true. She does. Well, that was her dream though. That was her number one bucket list thing, Matt.
A miracle.
So it sounds like which Rotten Tomatoes does a general consensus. So the reason why this ended up on the list is because on Rotten Tomatoes this has a 30% by critics, which is brutal, and then a 78% by audience. And I've never met anybody who's like, screw that movie, it's a piece of trash. Like it just.
I think most people are just like, oh, it's a chick flick. I don't want to watch it.
Right. Which is fine. Like if that's not your bag, it's not your thing. But it sounds like at least their overall consensus was that it was thoroughly wholesome. And the Mandy Moore vehicle walk to remember is also bland and oppressively syrupy is what the overall it is very syrupy to a degree, but also like, have you ever seen a chick flick like this?
Right.
Like what?
Maybe they're referencing there's not a lot, like, because it's very clear like there's no sex. You're right. Like even they make a big deal about like he's not gonna do that, and like there's like a whole moment where he's just like, I'm not gonna do that.
Also, the question is, so they obviously didn't tell us, but like they do get married. Like you
think they boned?
He clapping them cheeks. He said, I think the one sentence he gave was, we saw more love in that summer than most people see in a lifetime. I think that he was alluding there. He's like,
they saw a lot.
We did things.
That's the director's cut.
That is the director's cut. Like it got weird up in here.
You gotta find that one on the dark web.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure. So so I do that does also bring me to Chris's review, and since he's not on the show, we do need to address what he had to say about this film, which Chris gave it a 60%. He did say he cried, which pretty much everybody says about this movie.
Yeah, I don't know how you don't cry.
But what he said here was, and he did mention the acting and the stereotypes and things of that sort, but what he was talking about was the sexual energy was so gosh darn heavy. And he said, every time that she was on screen, I felt like I was getting finger blasted in my ear holes by some thirsty bee. So that is Chris's quote, unquote.
Happy vacation.
Yeah, right. So, which is kind of a point. There was like some borderline ASMR, which wasn't a thing back then, going on with the way that she spoke. And it was this very soft spoken, like, oh, and so you don't want to talk to me. And it was very like kind of sensual, but also not.
It was also her facial tics. They're not tics, I guess, but she would be like, say something like that. And then she would give like an eyebrow raise. She'd like, and you're like, I don't know. That's Mandy Moore. You're doing it for me right now, I guess. I don't know.
Nuances.
Well, and I always wondered. So this movie, one of the things that we haven't talked about is there is like this Christian undertone to this movie. She's the pastor's daughter, and it is a fairly wholesome movie outside of the one scene where Shane West, his character Landon, his best friend, is talking about him and her, and he's like simulating them getting it on, and that scene was actually pretty funny. And he's the only real like serious levity in the movie as far as like comedic bits, and he disappears about halfway through the movie, which is kind of a bummer because I actually liked his character fairly well. At least he added some comedy to the movie. But yeah, the Christian undertones in this as well, and obviously being in the South, we are in the Bible Belt, and we all grew up Kyle and I especially grew up very much entrenched in the church, and this was a movie that everybody had seen, and that component of it, I'd kind of forgotten about it, to the point in which there's Christian music in the movie as well, and some of which you might know, might not. And then there's the band that straddles the line, which is Switchfoot, which I still love to this day. Openly admit they are still putting out bangers. Like they're one of the few bands from that time period that still releases music, and you're like, this slaps. Like these guys are
their longevity is insane.
Yeah, it really is. Like still putting out quality stuff, which is impressive if you're into that type of music. But like I think they're still doing good stuff. But they are all over the soundtrack as well. I think this kind of helped blow them up too. They became very well known for just popping up in movies. And this movie is very much of the OC era and that time period where when I talk about the soundtrack, and like I said, a lot of the songs in this soundtrack in the movie are not on the actual soundtrack. But like there is almost not a moment that a like branded licensed song by a band is not playing at some point. Like,
and most of the times it's a close up
Yeah.
of somebody's face.
Right. Or like, you know, he's got his headphones on, or he's in the car pulling up the car, being cool. But
Yep.
like, I'm sure that I've never read the book, but I'm imagining that that was very much written into the character. And apparently, Mandy Moore, when filming this movie, had a big crush on Shane West, but he was like 5 or 6 years older. So he was in his 20s, she was in her teens. And so, but she was like, basically, she had made comments before where she was like, yeah, you know, I was this up and coming pop star and I was young, whatever. He was this cool older guy. And basically, she was like, he was this character. Like, he literally had this vibe. He was like smoking cigarettes off set and like, he was very much this character. So that's kind of funny.
Which explains, and I think somebody said in the comments earlier,
Mhm.
but you could feel when she was acting towards him that
Mhm.
there was some level of
Some
like,
chemistry.
I don't know if he reciprocated it really. Like, you kind of feel like he didn't necessarily.
Right. He does to some degree,
But
but
she definitely was like, you could tell, like, she had feelings.
right.
You always bring parts of yourself to a character,
Oh yeah.
Right.
no
Right.
matter
Yeah.
how small. So, and it'll translate and come through depending on what the camera is grabbing. So,
For sure. And for those that don't know, Kyle is our resident actor. So he knows the industry and kind of knows what goes on. So yeah, but this movie, I think that, you know, you take the good with the bad. It's very
Yeah.
much of the time. You're either going to be okay with it or not. It's very much of its genre. I think that this is kind of the boss of these type of movies. Like it ranks high, like The Notebook does.
Yeah, I was about to say the two top would be this and The Notebook, both
Right.
Nicholas Spark movies.
Yep.
Both like top tier, like in high school, anyways. Like
Right.
you're probably gonna see this if you were dating somebody.
Right. Yeah, no, I think so. And it very much was just riding the wave of the things of that time. And it feels like a lot of things like the OC and honestly, even in television and stuff, North Carolina was a hot topic. So it makes sense why they made this and why they've continued to. Is this guy? Because I mean, the thing is a lot of people might not know, like Nicholas Sparks, he did Safe Haven, Dear John, The Longest Ride. Like he's been connected to a Message in a Bottle, like a lot of chick flicks, and
with big
he's
names attached.
yes, with very big names attached, and is some of these have like made careers out of for people, including this movie.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see if people end up checking this out after seeing this. It is a good one of those. If you want a movie to watch with the wife or the girlfriend or whoever, there are worse choices to make than this movie for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I do feel like I've been spouting the things I didn't like about the movie, but I will say the emotional part of the movie really hits home.
Mhm.
And what I did like, what I actually got more emotional about was his connection with his real dad or the lack thereof. And then like when he goes to his dad, that was like when I teared up in the movie. Not necessarily when she was
With
like,
the
oh,
dad. The
yeah.
dad got me too.
Yeah, with the real dad. Even
Is
though
that
it
just
was-
because we're like dads now? Is that why that scene got us?
I don't know. Like I've got a rocky relationship with my dad, so I don't know if it was like that for me. That was what I
Right.
assumed it was for me. And like
Right.
you said earlier, was that like it was kind of you put into this movie whatever you want, and this movie's really about the dude.
Mhm.
Mandy Moore is here, and she is the other main actress, but that's not who the story follows.
Right.
Like from beginning to end, it's about what's his face?
Shane West's character.
Yeah, like so it's really about him.
It's his journey to being a better person.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And so
Which is
for
interesting
me-
for a chick.
You mean
flick
a
to-
walk?
Right.
Oh.
Oh.
So I don't know. That was what got me in the movie.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing I thought was ridiculous.
I'm
not done.
Bring it.
I'm not
Back to talking
done.
shit though, for
Yeah.
real.
I'm not done. The High School Musical,
Oh yeah,
when she did her song, dude, that
It's
was
so
like,
long.
it was just so out of the movie.
you're like, this is a Mandy Moore music video right now.
yes, and it was so weird. It was so took you right out of the movie.
It
I
does.
don't
That
even
was
know
a
where she.
marketing vehicle.
It was,
absolutely.
yes,
Absolutely.
facts.
Yeah,
Which and clearly her agent and things like things connected to her were involved because apparently whoever was like the label that she was under, and also like that's why Switchfoot is on this is because of her music label, from what I gather. So like there was a lot of the music component playing a role in this, and the music industry working hand in hand to make this movie happen.
I wouldn't be surprised if her performance, like the way that scene was actually handled, it happened that way because of something like contract or something. She was 16 at the time, so maybe something higher up from her agents and label producers and everything to be like, all right, let's do this, but also let's showcase her music
Right.
side, because the acting is new for her.
Right.
So let her do what she does best right now.
Right. And especially with them
I wouldn't be
also
surprised.
shopping for Jessica Simpson as well.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
Well, something that like really made me laugh aloud by myself in the room was they showed a pianist.
a
playing the-
pianist. There was a
they showed a
pianist. I don't
pianist.
remember a
Yeah,
pianist.
we watched a different movie.
PG
We watched a
13.
different movie, obviously.
Oh, okay, okay.
But they
Yeah.
showed a pianist while she was singing. But then if you're listening, all of a sudden like a full-blown orchestra comes sweeping in.
Yeah.
And I was like, what in the hell?
Which also
That backing track.
right. Well, and that school theater was wow. That was a nice school theater. Also,
Oh yeah.
Wilmington ain't. I mean, it's nice, but like not
right.
that.
No, this is even worse. It's Beaufort.
Right. It is
It's a
Beaufort,
small
yeah.
town
Right.
that my grandmother lived in for like a year because she was like this like hippie lady. And so she would move around. She would rent places for like a year and just move. And so she actually lived there for a year.
Wow.
And it's really funny to me because it's just like this tiny beach town. It's a little more popular now because
Right.
it's a nice touristy place.
But especially
like,
back then, it was quiet.
oh yeah, especially back then.
Funny enough, speaking of the music stuff, Megan in the chat made a point, and I had forgotten about this, but apparently at the very end of the VHS, there was actually a Mandy Moore music video attached to this.
No,
And I remember on the DVD, they were attached in the menus.
In the bonus.
Yeah, in the
stuff.
bonus features, there were multiple Mandy Moore videos or songs, and the Mandy Moore songs are absolutely the worst part of this movie. As far as not just her, like just for the vibe of the movie, all of the music is like over here, and then there's Mandy Moore's music over here. Like they don't work in tandem.
Was it in the? I don't know if anyone out there can recollect or recall your memories from when you saw it. Like, was there a video in the credits? Like a
There
music,
might have
like,
been.
when it actually came out in the theaters.
I don't know. I mean, it
Yeah.
probably was.
Right.
I bet it was some
whenever
sort of
that was, they
contractual.
put on
Right.
VHS and then also in the DVD
Yeah,
features.
Yeah.
But
I
so
can't remember.
I guess at
Mhm.
this point, we need to make our official ruling on where we stand with this. Were the critics right? Does this deserve the walloping that it took for like the regular, average, everyday person to go on and see a 30%? Is that even remotely fair?
I'm gonna say no.
No.
No. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Agreed.
no.
Agreed. Which is, comes back to my thing of always, which is that our scale is a lot more fair, makes a lot more sense. And even just from looking at the reviews given us, like the lowest one we have right now is from Caveat Ties, which is 50%. He hasn't seen it recently either.
Cave titties. Come on.
Yes,
man.
Cave Titties. Sorry, the Barbarian. So yeah, he gave it a 50%, which also, like I said, it's a chick flick. Like this is either going to be a brand or it's not, but it's a good one of these. But we were basically nothing but most excellence and rads, and we even have 100% by David in here as well. So it's like there are people that really like this a lot.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I said, I would be totally fine giving it 80%, being that like if I was to watch one of these, this is where I would lean.
Yeah.
Everybody can relate to it. And
Yeah.
I think that adds to the score. Like you were saying, there are people like this in high school,
Right.
and then these type of situations, everyone has either dealt with a variation of this or been proxy to something like that. So
Mhm.
everyone can just put themselves in that. Like,
Right.
oh, yeah.
And everybody at some point in their life has gone from one person to another person,
Right.
which is what this movie is all about. It's a journey from being
Growth.
person A to person B.
Yeah.
So it's
Well, and yeah, him. Do y'all like the fact that it ended on the note that it did, where like she passes away and he's now going into med school, and like they were married for a summer, but like I think that that's a very sweet thing, and I
Yeah.
think it works for this movie.
I would say out of everything I've seen, it's up there as far as one of the best examples of a perfectly. You ever heard the term like, hey, let's wrap everything nice in a bow at the end,
Yeah,
at the
right.
end of a movie. This is like an example of tying the bow, but it's
Right.
loose. Like one of the strands is
Yeah.
loose, where
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a nice closure. That's really
Mhm.
nice. But also it leaves it open ended for the audience to fill in. Like, you know what did he do after med school? Like, I'm gonna create that
Right.
canon in my head. So it's a
Yeah.
nice blend.
yeah. I wish it had ended right at like him being like, we spent the summer together and then she passed. I didn't like that it went to like 4 years later
Hmm.
and then he goes back and gives the book back to the dad.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Yeah.
That seemed unnecessary.
Right.
And for me, it felt really weird that he was like, "Oh, here, I'm giving you the a gift that she gave me back to you."
I think really honestly, the only point for that scene was just to be able to give a reason for him to come back to see the dad. It's like this isn't really his father-in-law anymore. Like he's going off to school. It's like what other reason?
And they were familiar. Like it was nice
Right.
seeing them being like more familiar with each other. But even then, I still just didn't
Also
feel like
okay. So back to the clapping of the cheeks.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So listen. So they were married for a summer, right? These are like two 18-year-olds.
Uh-huh.
Did they get their own house? Did they live with their parents?
No.
And for the summer of love, were they like just upstairs at like the parents' house, like getting freaky, or
Camping on the beach.
It's those sandy cheeks.
Camping.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they just stayed living with their parents. I mean, she was gonna die, and they were high schoolers.
Right.
They didn't have any money.
Well, she also had like a live-in nurse or whatever because his dad was paying for it. So
True. So maybe daddy bought them like a love bungalow.
maybe. I mean, it's only for a summer, right?
Right.
He's like, look,
Sandy cheeks on the weekends.
yeah. There you go. Yeah.
I just can imagine sandy cheeks would not be fun.
No, there's nothing about that. That's fun.
That doesn't sound fun
pretty
at all.
much. I mean, but you know, as people are into what they're into. You
I
know?
mean, I guess.
So, all right. Well, I guess that's it for our review of A Walk to Remember. I'm glad we talked about this. I'm glad I got to re-see it. This was a rewatch it. This was a fun one to go back to. It was funny because obviously, like I mentioned, Kyle came in on a whim because of Chris going to meet his mail order bride.
Speaking of Chris, he finally showed up in the chat.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
Oh, well,
finally.
now he knows that we're talking crap about him, and the narrative from now on is that is exactly what he went out of town for. If anybody asks, it was the mail order bride.
Yep.
So, but yeah, this was fun. I'm glad we talked about this. It was very obscure and weird. We won't normally do this type of movie. So, and we tend to lean into the more genre-y things or the horror or the superheroes or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is fun. I'm mixing it up, and let us know. I'm going to keep making this list of audience love, critic hated, or whatever. And honestly, it could even just be critic hated at this point and cover some really obscure movies. Like yesterday on our test stream, we were actually talking about The Lone Ranger, which is a film that I personally like. I feel like Kyle probably also, at least to some degree, enjoyed that movie.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We share in our like of that type of a movie.
Yeah. No, I do. I can't even think of what I would review it right now, but no, I did have a good time with that one.
And that's one that like critics absolutely roasted into oblivion. And obviously with Johnny Depp being Tonto, but it's like those type of movies also would be fun. And I mean, listen, if we're going to dress like the movie we're watching on occasion, then
Tonto, I call it. Boom.
Yeah, we would do that. We can really get some awesome outfits. Same for Joe Dirt. I mean, look, I've been working on this mullet for a little bit now.
I want to do Joe Dirt so bad.
Yeah,
I've seen it since high school.
It's not streaming anywhere.
I know.
So I'm kind of ticked about that. You can't find Joe Dirt easily, and I Miss Good Movies says that it is a masterpiece, and I haven't seen it since high school. So I'm really curious to know if it is actually still a masterpiece. But what we are going to do now is we are going to send you guys off with a send-off song. This is what we've done in the old show back when we did it, and even in the old podcast before it was video, before Criticalist was even a thing, and we were critically aroused. So with our send-off songs, we're going to send you off with 3 songs, technically, one from each of us, what we've been listening to lately, so that you can check it out if you want to try a new type of music. So while these guys are figuring out what they're going to talk about, I will go ahead and say mine, which is the artist Prof, P-R-O-F. This guy has kind of become one of these TikTok rapper-ish guys. Kyle heard him for the first time earlier and was like, this is wild.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's a very interesting artist. He has a song called, I guess I'll do Dynamite. That's his new one. He has a song called Dynamite. It's very fun, not exactly kid-friendly, but this is it's kind of a mix between modern rap, but also stuff from back in our high school time, and he's just very experimental with what he does. He's really fun. So check out Dynamite by Prof. That's my song, and I guess Kyle, you want to go?
Yeah. So my song is from Gunship featuring Tim Capello on the sax.
Yes,
it's called
Bro, Tim Capello. Is that not the dude from holy crap? What the vampire movie?
I believe so.
Which one?
With the
Cappello.
Yes, it's the Teen Vampires. It's an amazing movie. I'm having the most It's super 80s. I'm having the biggest brain fart.
Fright Night?
No,
I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they pulled him from, because it's a very 80s vibe.
Lost Boys?
Song.
Yes, Lost Boys. He is the shirtless guy that's all sweaty and gross in Lost Boys that is ripping up a saxophone. That is him.
Well, then you need to listen to this song, and so do all of you. It's
Gunship's amazing.
Oh, absolutely. China in Your Hand.
Mm.
Not the country.
Okay.
The fancy plates. China in Your Hand by Gunship featuring Tim Capello.
Sweet.
Enjoy.
Cool. Well, then I'll wrap us up. So this is a song I had never listened to this person before, and my Spotify DJ had just randomly was like, "Oh, this is stuff you might like," and it's called "Runaway to Mars" by Talk,
Okay.
and it just this is a weird way to describe it, but it just sounds nice. It's something about the way his voice resonates and how they audio mixed, but it's kind of like a love song actually.
Oh wow. Look
It's
at
weird.
you.
It kind of sounds like Fun, the band
Oh,
from way
okay.
back. You know how Heat
Yeah.
sounds?
Okay.
It's kind of like that.
Okay.
So I would just, and I normally listen to heavy metal for the most part. So this is kind of like a
Nice.
weird thing, but it's one of those things I can't stop listening to it, and I have it on repeat. And they do some cool things, like literally at the end of the song, like all the music stops, and he repeats like the chorus without like music
Oh, cool.
to like really push what he's
Right.
talking about forward with like an emotional level. So it's a very interesting song. So
Sweet. That's cool.
yeah, I've literally not even checked out his other music yet or anything. I know
Right.
nothing about the artist. It was just a song that I can't stop.
And who was that
listening to.
again?
Talk.
Runaway to Mars.
Runaway to Mars.
Runaway to Mars.
Yep.
Nice. And
So-
we will add these to our playlist that we have on the channel, so you can check that out. We've already added all the songs from previous episodes that we've
Mhm.
mentioned, so that'll be an ever-growing playlist that we have, so you can check that out on the channel. But basically, thanks for joining in the chat, guys. This has been really fun. Obviously, I guess it worked. We're still live. Things are still chugging along. So everything worked. So Nadia, thanks for hopping in. Ms. Criticalist, Chris, Caveat Ties. Who else am I missing here? David. Man, I'm really glad all y'all joined us. This is really cool, and we'll definitely keep doing it. Let us know what you thought. Let us know how everything sounded and looked. And to everybody that I didn't mention that's still in here, thank you very much. And we will do more of this. Give us your requests for maybe what you want us to review next, and we might even do this a little more often. Sometimes with just Matt and I.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Just let us know. We were originally talking about doing this maybe like on a monthly cadence, but if you guys are loving it, we can always do this more often. Maybe sub in other people, and since we're doing these live streams now, if you want, you could maybe join in on your own end and kind of hop in and be a guest.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because we will start
Yeah.
doing some guests and different Criticalist users and stuff as well. Nemantic just popped in a little late. Sorry you missed that. But yeah, you can definitely go back and check out our chat, and we will be doing more of these. And thanks for subscribing, everybody. We're super close to 500, so definitely thanks for helping us get to that point. This has been a fun ride. I never would have expected to do YouTube at all. This is ridiculous. And here we are doing this thing, and it's fun, and it's a good time. And thank you, Kyle, for coming, buddy.
Yeah.
Anytime, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for
having
the
me, guys.
short notice, like hop on, man.
Right.
Chris, the seat is warm, but not in a weird way. So
It's because he
enjoy-
farted.
He
enjoy-
does.
Yeah, enjoy your trip, and this will be here for you. And,
He'll come back with his mail order bride, and
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll pop in from time to time, I guess.
guys, thanks a ton. This has been real. It's been fun, and it's been real fun. We will see you soon. And for everybody that's new, make sure to hit the subscribe button, the likes, the comments, all of that. It helps us a ton. And we'll be back before you know it. And I'll be doing news and stuff as well. But we will be enduring the snowpocalypse for the next 3 days. Probably none of us will have power. We'll be freezing our wieners off and everything else for the next couple days because North Carolina doesn't know what to do with snow. So
correct.
Yeah, there's that. But we will see you guys again later. Everybody take it easy. And I will leave signing out to Matt because he is in control of everything.
See y'all. Go watch stuff and let's talk about it on the app.
All right, everybody. Thank y'all.